Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another fantastic of the His and Her Money Show. I'm Talent.
And I'm Ty, and we're from hisandhermoney.com, where we're teaching you how to have better money,
become a better couple,
and live a better life.
So, man, we are excited today. We have some super special guests on the line waiting to share their story and their wisdom. We are talking entrepreneurship and marriage.
Yes.
That is not two things that are easily blended together. Entrepreneurship is hard by itself. Like if one of you guys is trying to build a business and the other is trying to support from home or from a 9-to-5, but then
when you both up in
that thing,
oh my gosh,
my goodness, that can bring a whole tricky set of dynamics. Yeah. And we're excited about today's guests because they have worked through all those dynamics and they are on the precipice of building.
I would say working through. Worked through means we have it all together.
We've overcome.
I would say we are working. Yeah, we are come. We ain't overcome.
No, we shall.
We're in the shall part of our season.
All right.
Oh, I love it. That's what I love about. I consider them family, like friends. I don't know, cousins. Like what's the blending of friends and family, like friend. I don't know. There we go. And what I love about Kevin and Melissa is how transparent they are.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. I think that Melissa has the gift of communication, honestly.
Listen.
Like, she does it so well.
I don't think she knows
and
yet.
She invites you into your life, and it's almost like you're living it, you know, like in
Captain
HD
Marvel,
color.
man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She's Captain
So
Marvel.
I'm excited. Yes. So I'm so excited to be able to talk to you guys because I know that they're going to keep it real and really help everybody. We have our power players in the live interaction here during the podcast. So yeah, we're going to answer some questions too. We're going to ask Melissa and Kevin some questions.
We're talking with none other than KevonStage. I almost said Mr. KevonStage. We're talking to none other than KevonStage and Mrs. KevonStage. Kevin and Melissa Fredericks. Welcome to the His and Her Money Show, guys.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys. God bless you. God bless you.
I mean, if we look today, right?
Yeah.
It looks great. Kev, you just crossed 1 million.
Oh my gosh,
on
congrats.
The gram. Your YouTube is crazy. Your Facebook is crazy.
We were listening to it like driving in the car the other day. It's like,
yeah, man.
It's so good.
Melissa's got 7 shows.
Yes.
Kevin's got 18 shows. And y'all have your own studio. And man, it looks like
their parents, they're a mom and a dad as well. So yeah.
And you guys are in Hollywood, but you've been building this thing without Hollywood.
Yeah.
You've been doing this independently on your own. It looks great. But I want to go back. I want to go back to the beginning because you guys had a starting point. I don't want everybody just to see where you're at right now and try to catch up to you overnight. But this thing was a journey. I want you to go back. I want you to go back to where this came from. Where did Hollywood ambitions come from? Where did on stage come from? Were you guys always entrepreneurial? Was this something that sparked later on in life? Take us back to the beginning of how this whole thing started.
So I'll start and then Kev will take us home to Hollywood. When Kevin and I, we met when we were 16 years old. We were in 11th grade. My dad bought me a car. Kev was still on a bike. I was working at KFC. Kev was working at Burger King. I would drive my car at like 10 o'clock at night when Burger King closed to go pick him up, drop him off, and go home. My mom was like, why are you doing all this for this little boy? He ain't got no car. Like, it was a whole deal, okay? And we continued to date through, high school, through college. We eventually got married. And what happened was that my view of our life was we were going to work a 9-to-5. We were going to collect a real good check. We was going to have these kids enclosed in a white picket fence in this beautiful home where I was going to bake these apple pies and it was going to be steam and we was going to live the white suburbia life and I was going to be happy henceforth and forevermore. And then what had happened was I met this man and all my ambitions went out the window because he was doing, and he'd always had done, to be fair, he'd always done not stand-up, but he had done plays. He had done some form of stand-up, like even in our church and that kind of thing. And it was just like, while it may have been embedded in him and kind of festering that one day I'm going to like live out my dreams to go to Hollywood. It was never spoken aloud to me until one day it was. And it was like, but wait, my white picket fence.
How you think we're going to get the white picket fence if we out here balling? Cause them fences cost a lot. They cost $7,000.
We can climb the corporate ladder though. So Isaiah made a video that went viral on Isaiah's our oldest son, made a video on the internet that went viral, and that led into a role in the Little Rascals. And Isaiah moved out to LA for a few months, 2 or 3 months, and Kev came back and was like, so listen.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the thing.
I can't stay here. So I know we're in LA.
I actually told you that before we even left. I started texting her on set like, I'm not going to be able to do that anymore, but we'll talk more later.
We were both working at, I fast forward a lot of the story, but we were both working at Boeing at the time, making more money than we had ever made. We wasn't making a whole heck of a bunch of money, but for where we were at life,
it was more, we
crossed into Bill Gates.
We crossed into 6-figure territory together, and we were like, well, it's over for you poor folks. Melissa and I have now made it. Kids in private school, iPads on the desk, 8 kids to the classroom. We both work at Boeing. See ya. You know what I mean? Like, that was it for us.
We thought we had made it. And so I was happy. Like, listen, the kids are doing stuff on the little internet thing, got a little money on the side. We are working these real good jobs with good benefits. We got a house. Like, we are out here. We have made it. And Kev came back from that set and was like, so what I want you to do is quit this job, because I'm going to quit this job. And we're going to leave the state in which we have friends and a support system and a house and a payment plan and a paycheck. We're going to leave all of that and move to LA on what I like to call a dream and a prayer. Because that's literally all we had. And so that brought us to Los Angeles in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And how long ago was that again?
7 years.
Wow. I don't know how. I did not know that story.
Yeah. And the thing is, even prior to meeting Melissa, I had an entrepreneur heart, even as a kid. When I was in middle school, I had a little lawnmower business. When I was on base, on the military base, if your grass wasn't cut by a certain day, like they would do inspections twice a week, if it wasn't cut, you would get fined. So I would cut grass all the time, but especially the day before inspection, I'd be like, hey man, the fine's $25, the cut's $10. I could be done in 10 minutes. So I had that business. I had a business where I sold candy. I bought candy at the commissary for 33 cents, went and sold it for $1. So I always had a hustle. It was just once, stand up and the play things happened more, and I was able to like parlay the money I'd saved from stand up into a tour. Then it was like, okay, and the combination of Melissa being laid off, right? Because I don't think Melissa would have ever quit her job. She said she was going to quit. She went part-time. And then she was like, actually, I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to be part-time. And then she got laid off. And then it was like, okay, maybe I actually will join you fully in entrepreneurship. But it was definitely, our money story is very different. Melissa viewed money as like her dad was in the military. He was a saver. She watched him, pay the bills, balance his checkbook. He set the bills out on the table. He paid them, you know what I'm saying? He saved a lot of money from them. She was like, this is what a man does. This is how life lives. My mom was an entrepreneur. She had businesses, she had flyers. So I was like, and my dad was in the military, but I was not looking at him. I was looking at my mom like, yeah, get money, get money. You know what I'm saying? So that just grew and grew and grew until, she was able to come off her job and I had quit my job. And then we started to work together in the business, which meant I had to start making room for her in the business. At first, I was just doing it all alone, right? And then making room for her in that part of my life presented its own challenges and victories.
Wow, I want to talk about that, making room for her.
That was a whole sermon point right there.
Exactly.
I made room.
Yes,
What happened was KevonStage was, so if you are a fan from a long time, KevonStage came from the Playmakers were making our own church videos. And I was like, there's also stuff that I want to talk about that's not always about church. So I'm gonna make my own YouTube page, and it was smaller than the Playmakers page for years, which was fine with me because my goal wasn't to be bigger than the Playmakers. It was just to have my own voice. So I kind of had always built that by myself. And then when we toured, we did the Love Hour. Then it was like, okay, now how do I incorporate Melissa? Because in order for me to get from nothing to where I was, it was fine to do it alone. But to get from here to the next part of, the next plateau, I'm going to have to make room for her in this part of our business. Otherwise, it's going to harm my business and our marriage. So that was probably, phase 2 of the journey that we're currently on. We're probably a little further in phase 2.
Talk about that, Melissa. How did that feel? Again, you were laid off and now you're full-fledged in the business, and you've also started your own thing. I think that's how the Love Hour was birthed, right?
It sounds like it was a real process for you.
So I would definitely say it was a process, a long process, but it was twofold. The first process was the fact that I didn't leave my job. My job closed down and it forced me out. They literally closed down and moved to Ohio. And unless I was moving to Ohio, I no longer had an option to go to work. So it wasn't like by choice that like, okay, I'm ready to leave my job and go work with my husband and build this empire. It was like, girl, we close it in 7 months. So get ready. And I as much as I thought I was ready, I wasn't ready. I just wasn't. I'll say that, a lot of meaning in going to work, a lot of meaning in clocking in, doing a good job. I'm very like, give me my job description and I will nail it. Like that's just how I work. In the entrepreneurial world, job description where just do all the things. Well, what are all the things? Because I don't even know what that means yet. Like I didn't know. We were married, but the KevonStage, that kind of thing. I've always actually said this. We had our roles. Kevin's the dreamer. Melissa's the stable one. She's the one. We skipped over this, but Kev was fired for a little while, got fired, and he wasn't working a job for a little while. Then he started working for the church. So he didn't always have steady income. So that's fine. Kevin, you go do those things. Melissa's the one that will ensure we have health insurance and vision and dental, and we have a paycheck every 2 weeks. And those were our roles. And all of a sudden, I'm in a position where I no longer have a job. Okay, so now what? It was just, so part of the process was that. And then the second part was what Kevin was just talking about was, well, how do I fit into this world? Kevin's been KevonStage and kind of operating autonomously, so to speak, for as long as this has been going on. You have input, I support, I show up to the events, but I'm not in the inner workings of this business because I was the stable one. So now I have to figure out kind of where I fit. And it was a struggle. It was a struggle for us. And it was a struggle for me in trying to create this new identity and even this new dynamic in our relationship where and I still struggle, if I'm being honest, but where I want to have input and trying to figure out, well, is my input valid? Is it valued? Is it, you kind of have all of these questions, and he's so used to make a decision and move on. And I'm like, okay, but like, what if I have something to say? So that whole kind of, again, just kind of restructuring was definitely a process. That's why we say we shall overcome, because we're still only someday 2 years into that. I think I will officially have come off my job. It'll be 2 years this year. Or was it in 17?
No, it was 18, but okay. 18 you worked and toured. 19 was the first full year of
so,
not working.
So yeah, it's still been and still is. And so what ended up happening, I guess, to kind of just tie into Love Hour, is we started the podcast and I decided to do a conference, and it gave me that sense of meaning that I got when I went to work. the sense of, you know, I need something to do every day. I need something that I can say, I've accomplished something. I can check something off my box because I know what I needed to do and I did it. That sense of accomplishment, I just didn't have. Like, I've never dreamt of being a stay-at-home mom. I never dreamt of being, and that's no shade, no disrespect to, you know, to people out there. That's what they want to do. It was just never my goal, never my intent. So I was like, I have to do something. Otherwise, I'm gonna fill out somebody's job application. Because I can't just be at home.
And low key, she kept her work clothes for like another year and a half after she quit. Like, I feel like maybe when we just moved, right?
No. I let go of them before then, but I did keep them for probably a good year because we were working the part-time thing. It was probably about a year because it was like the end of the year that like I officially was laid off, and then a little bit into that first year, I held on to them because I didn't know if this was something I was really going to be able to sustain, if we were going to be able to sustain working together. And it really wasn't. I listened to a podcast and the lady was actually talking about getting rid of things in order to make room for what in your life is taking up space and then not allowing you to create space for the newness that's in your life, the right now that's in your life. She was talking about something else, but child, in my mind, it was like, it's my closet. I have these work clothes that I'm holding on to that are for this old life, and I won't be able to make room for this new life until I get rid of them. And so for whatever reason, that spoke to me in that way, and that's when I, you know, purged my closet. We said a whole lot, child. I don't know if I answered.
No, that was good.
Somebody, one of the power players is saying, I love your transparency.
They are very transparent. That's what I love about that as well, about them as well. So I guess my question for you, Melissa, once you decided to finally be all in, what changes did you see take place from when you finally just said, okay, I'm all in, mentally, physically, I'm here?
The creative juices start flowing. And I always use creative like this because we always have this debate about whether or not Melissa's creative.
It's a whole thing, guys. We don't have time to get into it today.
We don't have to. But I realized, listen, when you're divided, you're unstable, child. You ain't all in on this side, you ain't all in on that side. And so you find yourself in this place, you're at a stalemate. Like, am I going to fill out a job? Am I really going to do the conference? Am I going to do this? You got to make a decision and go forward, child. Like, now go be great and do what you're going to do, but you got to decide. And so it wasn't until I purged my closet, really, that the Love Hour conference came from that. I decided to start doing the Love Hour After Dark. We started even I was able to, because what I wanted to do was retreat. This ain't working. I don't want to argue with my husband. I don't want to have these issues and this argument. So what I'm going to do is feel like, to the point where one of my old bosses, I was a good worker. Okay. Like, I was a good employee. Melissa, I got a job. Do you want to listen? Can you hold that application for me for like 3 days? Let me see how this goes. Jesus, I need a sign.
Oh my God.
And so we had to have a conversation about, like, this is what's working. And it took a while, you know, to articulate some of those underlying feelings that I had. But it wasn't until we were able to, like, come on one accord, have a conversation, be together. Let me express what I'm feeling. Let you express what you're feeling. Let me stop being divided, unstable in all my ways, get rid of my clothes, that I'm able to, like, fully commit to this life, that you're able to, you know, tap into the entrepreneurial type spirit that's really about creativity that I never felt like I had, because I was so used to, give me a job description. That's what I need to do. I will do it and I will excel, and you will give me a raise and I will be a manager, and look how good I am with my gold star. And that's not how entrepreneurship works.
Right.
So I don't think you guys get enough credit for the business side of KevonStage Studios. I really don't. I'm super observant, and I've noticed, you know, in the time that I've known you and you all and watched you all, that you guys are super independent. Now, you moved to LA because of this movie role experience that your son had, and I'm sure you had Hollywood dreams and Hollywood studio ambitions and SAG cards and all that type stuff. But you guys have been building this thing brick by brick with your own money, financing your own content, going on financing your own tours. Where did that flag in the ground say, you know what, we're going to build this on our own?
We're going to pave our way.
What got you to that point, to be so independent?
Well, I wouldn't say it's not a a moment like one thing. It's kind of been the combination, the accumulation of a lot of things, right? So, for example, I just decided I want to make my own movies and stuff, right? Now, before I wanted to do that through Hollywood, like I want somebody to pay for it and I'll make it and all that stuff. But I had a chance to direct a pilot, you know, that a company had paid for, big company, big budget. And then I saw how when someone else pays for it, they get the final say so, right? Mm-hmm. Casting, notes, what the funny jokes are. There's only so, especially when you're young, like you can't push back against the network when they've decided they're paying for it. Like, we bought this, so this is what goes. So that's one thing where I'm like, man, I really can't do that because this isn't really my money, right? Even if you're going to go into a partnership with somebody, if I say I want to have, for example, a Black woman in every head of the department, and somebody else is like, well, I want to have the best person for the job, even if that's a Black woman, or maybe it might not be, then if I'm not paying for it all, I can't make all those decisions. I can't be in a partnership and say everything is my way. Now, if I do it by myself, then I can say I can do this however I want to do it. And I can now hold all the power and tell the story I want to tell, hire who I want to hire. And also I'm realizing that the person who owns the thing actually has the power, right? The person who owns the IP owns the idea. I can make my movie for whatever, 50 grand, 100 grand or whatever, and I can sell it to you for 500, 600 or license it to you, but it's still my product. But if you pay me, you now own it forever. And it was more beneficial to me to own it, even if I own less, even if I make less, I own it all. And that same thing happened with our tour. Like, the main reason I went on tour is because I was on a tour previously, and the promoter was like, you three comedians are gonna split half of the stuff because I'm paying for the venue and the flights and hotels or whatever. And I'm like, man, you really get like, I gotta split half? I get a third of half?
Yeah, a third of half.
Just because you can put the money down? Yeah. But you can't market it without us.
Right.
You
so can't have it without you guys. Yeah.
You can't have it without me. And that's one thing if you're doing all of it, but you're just really paying for the venue, right? So I said, I don't need to sell 1,000 seats if I'm only getting a third of half. I could sell 300 seats if I'm getting it all. And that's
say that again.
One more time for the people in the back.
Yeah, say that again.
It's better for me to get all the money from even 250 seats sold than to get a third of half of 2,000 seats. You know what I mean? Because now that person has taken a very small risk and they get to reap all the reward. Where if I have to take a bigger risk, but the reward is much greater, but now I can control everything. You know what I mean? So that's where the genesis for the Real Comedians Social Media Tour was. I saw the numbers one time. The guy was like trying to motivate us, like, look at where we're at. And if y'all just push a little bit more, and I'm like, hold on, we made, like, I knew, but I ain't, seeing the actual number was like, oh, hold on. All you needed to do was pay the venue cost and you get half of this? And have some food backstage? Oh no. From that moment on, I was like, I'm done with this tour. I told Melissa, he messed up. You should have never motivated. You done peeked behind and let me see the books. Because I was making good money, right? I was making more money with the third of half than I had been, doing my solo shows. But I saw what he was making and I was like, oh no, you out your mind, right? You out your everlasting mind. So, and that kind of just ignited the entrepreneur that was always there. Like, bro, I can do that. You know what I'm saying? So, so that's what I did.
Everyone knows why life insurance is important, but many of us choose to ignore the reality of what would happen if we were to die suddenly without proper protection. The results could be devastating for your surviving family members, leaving them with a large bill for your final expenses, or even worse, loss of the family home because they can no longer cover the mortgage.
Term life insurance gives you peace of mind at a price you can afford. Term life insurance allows you to meet your financial obligations today while still protecting your family's future tomorrow.
If you don't currently have a life insurance policy, you are not alone. According to Life Insurance Statistics and Facts, which is a report put out by the life insurance industry, about 43% of the population don't own a life insurance policy in any amount.
Wow. Buying life insurance doesn't have to be complicated. Legal & General America make it easy for you to protect your family's financial future.
As one of the nation's leaders in low-cost, high-quality life insurance to over 1.3 million families, they know how to protect you.
Legal & General America makes understanding and applying for life insurance easy. You can get a free quote by going to hisandhermoney.com/LGA. The links are also in the description box below. Man, that you all said a lot there. I thought that was powerful. I've even seen you, Melissa, like you launched your own planner.
Yeah, you like
and
we met
somebody
y'all.
said Melissa's denying that she's creative, that she's not creative. She's creative.
Yeah.
So
see, even the power players know.
Yeah, come on.
Stop fronting, Melissa.
Seriously, we had an opportunity to go to California. That was your first time, I think, going to California, right? No,
I've never been to LA.
You've never been to LA. There we go.
San Diego.
And just to be able to be a part of their show, but just to kind of see how they're really building it again, brick by brick. I mean, you all had your products there, your clothing there, and Melissa, you were about to launch your planner. And
I remember Melissa just said it one day, like, I think I'm gonna do a planner. And then like 2 weeks later, hey guys, my planner's out. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, right.
All by herself.
All by herself.
Like, come on. And I forgot about that. Stop.
I want you to talk about that. Talk about, what did it take, Melissa? Here again, you were working a 9 to 5 and someone was kind of telling you your job description. Now you're having to build it on your own. Talk about that process, when you built your own planner and you launched your own planner.
I'm going to say for any of the people that identify with me, because all the people in the room are against me, but if you identify with me, this is how it works, okay? Every year, beginning of the year, what do? We be looking for planners. We be looking for, even if you don't use them, you're just like, it's about to be 2020. Like, I should totally get a planner because that's the thing people do that are responsible.
True.
So I was looking for a planner and it was a very specific type of planner that I was looking for and I couldn't find it. I want to make, because sometimes you want something that's small that you could put in your purse, but when it's too small, you can't write all the stuff that you need, or you got to like write like this to try. I don't want to do all that, but I also wanted like, some of the motivational stuff, but some of the motivational stuff be fluff. And you'd be like, I bought a $50 planner and for what? Like, I don't even use it. And it got stickers and outlines and girl, what? So it was just a lot. So I was like, I should just make my own planner. And that's literally, I was just like, I should make the planner that I want. I should make the planner that I want to buy that doesn't exist. And so that's literally like how it came about. The only reason why I say I still don't consider myself a creative, but we ain't gonna have this whole conversation, but I do feel like I am a learned creative. And the reason why is because this energy is transferable. You hang around enough entrepreneurial people that just have that, and I don't say hustle spirit like bad, like hustling, but hustle like we always gonna make it, figure it out. Everything is figure outable. I'm gonna make something, grind, and I'm gonna do the things. You hang around that enough and you catch it. And I feel like that's what my dream in life, like I just told you guys, was to work a 9 to 5. Like even today, if all things went to crap, I would fill out a job application before I would even allow Kevin to, because I would
sell flowers on the side of the road before I would go back to somebody's job.
And to me, that is a fundamental difference in who we are. I have no problem. Excuse me, these are my skill sets. Here's my beautiful resume. Look at all the things that I can do. Please hire me. I have no trouble. There's no shame in my game because it was never really my dream. With that said, I've hung around so many people at this point that some of that energy, I just feel like I've caught, and I think that's where I am now, where those creative juices are just starting to like, when you step on I was going to make a sound effect, but I suck at it.
You started.
I know. Okay. It was okay. I changed my mind because I heard myself do it and I knew it was going to be terrible. But when you step on a gas pedal and you could hear, the car is just kind of, that's where I feel like I am. I'm just at the we're pressing on the gas and I'm figuring out, oh, this is what I like to do. Oh, this is what I want to do. Should be my brand. This fits. This doesn't fit. I'm just starting. It's a learned process for me. It's not something that's just kind of innate. And I don't say innate like that, but like just something that's always been there, or maybe it was there and it was dormant. I don't know, but child, it's been awakened.
Well, you kind of answered the next, somebody asked a question, how does Melissa tap into her creativity? You hang around other people that are creative.
Yeah, and you don't shy away from it. I would say that for some people that have that creative juice, he saw that and instantly knew, listen, you doing what? Wait, what? Girl, nah, we ain't doing that. No, he just knows automatically. I think when you don't have it in there, you see yourself a certain way. You don't always realize that some of what you're thinking is creative. You don't always recognize it as entrepreneurial. So sometimes it's just about like sitting in whatever thought you may have and flushing it out and realizing, girl, that's it right there. That's what you've been looking for. You didn't know it was there because you didn't really tap into it. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So now, none of the success that you all have had has been accidental. You guys have been super strategic. I want to go back just a little bit to that moment that you had, Kevin, where you got a peek at the books. You're like, wait a minute, I could do this on my own. Nipsey Hussle said, all money in, and that's what you was about to do, right? But there comes risk with that. Now you're going to take all the risk. You're going to shoulder the risk, and you have the potential to reap bigger rewards because you're willing to shoulder more risk. What type of conversations are you all having at that moment where you guys are saying, we're going to do this on our own? What type of things that you have to change with money flows to make sure that this higher level of risk that you all were about to undertake would be sustainable?
That's a great question. What we had to do in this, I'm actually glad we get to talk about this. The thing that helped, so I have a documentary about this whole first tour called A Calculated Risk. So what we had to do, right? We both worked jobs that first year of the tour, right? I worked with my job. I worked it out because I had done so well at that point. Let me work remote on Fridays. I'll be available for calls. The only time I won't be available is early in the morning because I'll be flying out, But as soon as I get up in the air, I'll be available by email and by Slack. And I was leaving, first thing in the morning in LA time, so the office wasn't even open. By the time I landed, the office is opening stuff, right? So that's part of it. It's a big part of it because I was able to help subsidize the tour with my actual job and Melissa's actual job. And that made sure we had health insurance and things like that. Also, when I was doing stand-up on the weekends for those years prior and my actual job during the week, I would save that money. So
we got out of debt.
Yep. So we had seed money. We had paid our revolving debt off. We're not going to get into the lease the car thing. We know, guys. We know. But so that those other good decisions, credit wise and things like that, had allowed us a little more wiggle room, because we didn't finance the tour on credit cards. Thank God. And also, I took a little from other smart business people. Darius Cooks had a thing where he would go around and do
pop up
dinners, and he had a save the date price, which basically said, when I come to your city, this ticket's usually $125 or whatever. But if you are willing to say, no matter where it is in my city I'm going to go, I'll sell it to you for, say, $75. But there's only a limited amount of those. So I was like, okay, this is okay. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to pick these 35 cities. And I went to my Facebook and looked at the cities that I had the most fan bases on. And I gave you a save the date price, which said you're going to get to go into both of these shows for $15 if you're willing to buy a ticket before I even have the venue picked out. And when I get the venue, you have 7 days to say, oh, this is too far for me. I don't want to go, right? And that allowed me to have a little more seed money at the very beginning of the tour because I could sell tickets for everywhere, for everybody. So the combination of those couple of things gave us enough to get started. So I remember we were like, we're not in the clear yet when the tour started until we knew we had enough money to pay the comedians out for the rest of the tour, even if we didn't sell one ticket. So for us, we weren't even in the green. And that was probably somewhere in, I don't know, March or April. Yeah. And we started touring in February. Now, obviously, we were able to pay them per weekend, but that was based off these weekend shows and the tickets. And I also front loaded the tour with the cities that I had the highest amount of fans in. So like if we were going to fizzle out, we were going to fizzle out in Cincinnati, where I was much lower, as opposed to like Philadelphia or DC, where I was much higher, or Atlanta. So that's why I say it was a calculated risk, because we had the job, we had the savings, we had the, no debt. So we didn't have so much money going out. We really had more to hunker down. And then it was the delivering and the tickets and the shows selling out. I think that first year we sold out like 99, like completely sold out like 99% of all tickets available. Not like, oh, this is technically sold out. Like every seat available was sold. And then we didn't spend any of that money from the first tour. I'm talking about none. So when the second tour came around, we had even more of a nest egg. And then when this year came around, we had even more of a nest egg. But then coronavirus killed all that. But, you know, so it was a combination of all those things. And that's why I tell people don't, you know, a lot of entrepreneurship talks are quit your job. If you don't quit your job, you don't believe in your dream. No, a lot of times your job is your first investment, your first seed money. And it allows you to let your business money be set aside for the business because your livelihood's not tied to that. A lot of times people quit their job so quick that they need the business money and then they can't succeed. Or they needed to succeed much faster because they're living off of it. Right. And that allowed us to let the business grow until it was profitable on its own. And then I could quit my job because it was like, after the first year, it was like, it's physically impossible to tour like that and work a full-time job and be a husband and father. Something's gonna give. And I wasn't gonna put my kids through that again because it was tough on them the first year. So that's why we decided that I was gonna quit my job. And then the Lord decided that Melissa was not gonna have no job.
That was so good. I got like multiple questions going on in my head. First, somebody said that documentary was good. If they want to watch that documentary, The Calculated Risk, is that what it was called?
Yep.
Where can they find that?
It's on YouTube. Just type in, I believe, type in A Calculated Risk, and it should be on my KevonStage Studios page. Okay.
Well, make sure that we also link it in the show notes as well. Yeah. So I have two questions. I think maybe both you all can answer this, and then Melissa can answer the next one. So you mentioned COVID, right?
Yeah.
This pandemic happened, and nobody's touring. Talk about the importance of building your own, and you guys had other revenues. That's what we're teaching our power players. If you guys want to become a power player, go to powercoupleuniversity.com to get more information. But we're teaching them not to be dependent on that job, not to be dependent on that one thing. Get multiple other sources. So now that you guys are not touring, talk about that process of now, you know, you guys still have not stopped.
Because y'all's pivot game is unmatched.
I love it.
I told Ty this. I said, man, they ain't no joke. And I tell you what made me say this to my wife. You had these God blocked it masks.
Sure did.
That came out. I said, Kevin don't mess around, man. He was singing the song, God, like talking about the coronavirus. And I said, man, their pivot game is strong, man. So talk about that.
I'm going to tell you actually
hold on before you say it. That's that entrepreneurial thing that I was talking about. I would just sing God blocked it and move on. The fact that he's able to register, God blocked it. We're in coronavirus. Put it on a mask. God blocked it. That's the thing. Make that happen. Those are the moments that you have. You learn it first. I see what he did there, and then you allow that to resonate in you in those moments where you have those when you're kind of going through that same process. Those are the things I had to do. Okay, continue.
That's good.
That was a good connection.
That's good. Yeah. And now with influencers being all over now online, we should all have a lot of people that now we can look at to get that creative juices. So I think that was good. Yeah. Watch Kevin and do what Kevin did.
Right.
One thing is what helped my pivot game is actually having a lot of failure, right? So there was years where YouTube had an adpocalypse where somebody did something and all the ad money went down on YouTube. And I was like, okay, so I cannot survive solely on YouTube. So let me make sure my stand-up comedy game is working. And also, if I have there was times early in my career when I used to get paid $125 a show. Remember that this morning? And I would sell shirts, and I'd sometimes make $600-700 in shirts, and the church only paid me $125 and covered the flight. So I'm like, okay, now I might not be a fashion line, I might not have a clothing line, but I can sell merch, right? So let me have a t-shirt line. And also, if YouTube ever goes down, if I have a podcast ad company that's separate from YouTube, then even if I don't make money from the ads on YouTube, I can be making money from the podcast ads that are sold on our behalf, right? And then there's the consulting, where I consult for digital companies, where I can use my mind and brain and what I've learned from digital media and, you know, being on a conference call once a week, couple things, 2 or 3 times a week, then I can get a consulting agreement. And then there's the big brand deals where our large amounts of money come in. That's okay. Boom, straight to savings. So if it ever goes bad for a long period of time, at least this one brand deal can cover the mortgage, or for 6 months. And then there's just being smart with your investments, right? Retirement accounts, things like that. Like, this is our long-term plan. Whenever we stop doing this, the money that we're investing now in, IRAs and 401k and things like that will be down there. And owning the IP, like selling my stand-up comedy special direct to consumer, right? I get paid from that, a little trickle here and there, and I don't even promote it well. Like, I still really suck at promoting. I'll make something and promote it once, and then I so quickly move on to the next thing that I forget to promote all the things that I have for sale, right? So then here's another thing. I steal from other creators. Like, their ideas, not like steal, but like, okay, Tony Baker promotes once a day, at least, his merchandise. His fans don't seem to be bothered by it. Maybe I can promote 3 times a week. Darius had this idea about how to run a restaurant. Obviously, I don't cook, but what part of that business plan can work for me? You know what I mean? It's like, it's a combination of doing all those things, but the most important thing is being the owner of all that. Keeping the income makes it be getting 100% of everything you own gives you a better power position, because then I can decide to and I totally forgot, I did a master class that I can teach you what I learned. And, then I did we had to also, not only do we had to pivot from the tour live, we had to pivot from the live conference. We're going to do the Love Hour conference live and the Stage for Creators conference live. And we had to make those digital because it wasn't safe to, be in Atlanta. We're supposed to be in Atlanta in 2 weeks, right? Coronavirus is out of this world right now. So, and a good business person doesn't rely wholly on one thing, because you never know when that thing's going to drop. And, so basically we have good months of something and lower others, good years of something and lower others. Right now, touring is usually our biggest thing, and that's going to be the lowest this year. But, maybe in 2 years, we'll be back to that again. You know what I mean? So it's a combination of a lot of things to build a solid foundation. And
I love how you guys think very forward. Like, I don't know if it was a video that I was watching, or I don't even know if we were talking about this in person. But the whole situation with the studio, you got your previous studio. I think I remember hearing Kevin say something about the fact that you made sure that you had a year's worth of your studio payment or something like that. So you guys didn't have to worry about that. So now you all can think creatively and still build the business, but the bills are taken care of. Did I hear that correctly? I think I heard that somewhere. Okay. Yeah, I love that. I love that about you guys. Talk about that money side. And then I want to ask Melissa, we get a lot of people that always ask us, how do I get my spouse on board? Well, in your case, you have a creative spouse. He could see something and do it. How did you support that? How did you trust it? I mean, you picked up and moved to LA. Like, if Tyler told me that he wanted, like, he's been trying to get me to go to Texas for a minute.
I've been trying. It ain't worked yet.
And Atlanta. And I'm like, no, not unless X, Y, and Z happens, So talk about, how did you get enough faith to actually say, okay, I'm going to trust you and I'm going to go.
Please do answer this well, Melissa, please.
2 things. Thank you. Thing number 1 is that I did have X, Y, and Z. I had a list. So when I can pull it up right now. Hold on. I actually think it's important that I do it. So
she had X, Y, and Z too.
Okay, well, give me the X, Y, and Z then, so I can start working on X. At least start working on X.
This is X, Y, and Z ain't gonna be your wife's X, Y, and Z.
Dang, I knew you weren't gonna be able to see it. This here, if you can see at the top, you may not be able to, but it says Frederick's Family Manifest Destiny. Kevin, he was so mature at the time to do it, to be honest. I had concerns about, we had a home that we actually still have in Washington. What are we going to do with it? Where are the kids going to go to school? Where are we going to go to church? How are we going to pay for things if we're going to leave our Boeing jobs that are fabulous that we just got 18 months ago and move to LA with no job? How are we going to pay for the things? At all of these concerns, I want to make sure all of our we left LA or Washington. I want to make sure all of our debt is paid off. Kevin sought the Lord's face, you hear me? And came back to me with this plan and addressed all of my concerns in his name. And that is what gave me, I remember the day that we left, I read, not that I'm super big on fortune cookies, but my fortune cookie at the time, and actually Scandal was really popular during that time too. And she said something to Olivia said something to the effect of, I'm going to follow my man over a cliff. And my fortune cookie said something similar. And it was like, to me, that's what I was doing. You addressed all the things that I could think of to make me want to go. You addressed them well. I am now on board with this plan. And regardless what happens, we are now at least on one accord. So if we fail, I can't say, I told you so. And you don't have to worry about me saying and being shamed because you did it without me fully committing to the process. When we left, I was 100% on board. But had we done it, listen, 3 days earlier, I wasn't going to be on board, okay? But he literally, and so that was the first thing. The second thing was that, this might be a little spiritual, but I remember having a conversation when Kevin lost his job, and he always remembers it differently, but this is the way I remembered it. We had a conversation with our pastor as we were struggling. I was stressed about money because, y'all always talk about make your bills to one income. Well, at the time we didn't have his or her money, so we didn't even okay. So our bills were set up to two people, but he lost his job. So now what's going to happen?
We learned now, y'all. We learned. Okay. But we didn't know then. We was keeping up with the Joneses.
All things wrong. And so I remember we had a conversation with our pastor, and Kevin, with tears in his eyes, was saying, I just can't do it. I can't do a 9-to-5. It's just not who I am. And the revelation that, oh my gosh, there are people out there that are literally so creative that a 9-to-5 is a slow death.
It hurts me to my body.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me because I'm not a creative. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'll clock into work every single day. This is what you're supposed to do. What do you mean you can't do it? It never occurred to me. And so to see that honesty and transparency, there was no way as his wife I could allow him to hurt that, continue along the path that we were on, knowing that it hurt him the way that it was. So at that point, it's like, well, then instead of me saying all of this and you saying all of that, how can we develop a plan where I am satisfied and you can be happy as well? And that's where Frederick's Family Manifest, I would say that's where it came from. You didn't realize it at the time, but I would really say that that's where it came from, of me saying, okay, I'm willing to give the control of what is important to me to meet you where you are, as long as we don't have no debt, as long as we have a plan on how we're going to be able to sustain a lifestyle and the bills will be paid and our credit's not sacrificed. As long as we can develop those things, I'm on board with you 100% to figure the rest out.
And it's also, it wasn't a mandate for me. It was the beginning point to a conversation, right? So I said, in this, which is hilarious, I said,
I still have it.
We gonna get an apartment for $1,500. And I was like, boy, you was hoping
in LA.
Right?
In LA.
So Melissa was like, look, because we moved from a house we own, right? She's like, it's hard enough to go to an apartment, but here's where I draw the line. It has to have a washer and dryer in the unit. And I'm like, Melissa, do you realize? I was like, because when me and Zay lived in Burbank for the movie, I was like, we had a one that was across the hallway and it saved $500. She was like, in the unit. We got small kids. I don't want to have to get dressed, so that took my $1,500 up to $2,100. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's tripping, right? But if I just gave her a mandate, it wasn't going to work. If it was something that we agreed on, compromise, she got this, I got that, this and that, then it starts to work because we both have skin in the game. We both get some of what we want. And you know what I'm saying? So, but I did have to take the step to address her concerns with a plan. And then she was able to put holes in the plans and suggest, and even silly stuff. Like I was like, let the house go into foreclosure. And she was like,
this is real. He really,
this is literally in there. Let the house go to foreclosure. By the time they figure it out, we already have another apartment. She was like, or
Kevin.
Crazy thought. I know, guys. Listen, I was like, girl, don't worry. I'm gonna buy you a house in cash. Don't even trip. I'm gonna get that back. She was like, or we could rent our house out. And I was like, oh yeah, we could rent our house out, right? So, but in my mind, I was gonna do whatever it took to get down here. She wasn't willing to sacrifice everything to chase this dream, which was a much more conservative way to get down here, but was much more necessary for an actual way to raise a family. And also in our business, we don't get this office if we have that bankruptcy or foreclosure on our credit from, you know what I'm saying? Like, then other things are now more difficult. So it's like in Dumb and Dumber when that guy had to pee and he was like, you pee right now on yourself, you're going to be warm for 2 minutes.
Right.
Then you're going to be even colder for 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? So in a lot of ways, I was
that was such a strange analogy, but it was spot on.
We get it though. We get it.
Good.
Yeah. So I was very short-sighted in some ways, and she was helpful to me to be more long-term thinking in those ways. But in my dream, it was very clear. And without me being the dreamer, then we wouldn't have the white picket fence that we still don't have.
Y'all got a nice swimming pool on y'all's backyard.
Nice
swimming pool.
Golf course, but no white picket
fence. I know we got to let y'all.
It's really a thing anymore,
it's
though.
really not.
I know we got to let y'all go, but it's one more thing I want to hit on that I've observed in the work that you all do. And it's not easy to do, but you all make it look easy, and that's working. So I'm gonna say it, I'm gonna urbanize it, then I'm explaining it. You make sure everybody eat. You don't want to just eat by yourself. And so I've noticed that you work with family. Your brother-in-law, I think your sister, I think Melissa's sister does some stuff for the company. Yeah. You got people that friends from your days at All Deaf, Joshy, Guns. You got you brought Doughboy with you. You got your new co-host, which is a perfect match for you on that show. That is a perfect match. And I've just noticed that you've been willing to hand out slices of the pie.
Both of them,
everybody eats.
But that's not easy though. That's not easy.
It's not.
Working with family and friends.
We worked with family before, and we said we would never do that again. You know? But it just was a bad experience.
Yeah, it was just a bad experience.
We'll do it again now, but how did you guys?
No, I'm definitely, we would definitely do it again, but I'm just curious, you all's process. Has it always worked well? Were there some challenges in, Kevin and Melissa are not Kevin and Melissa at work. Right. You guys are the boss. You know what I mean? Like, were there issues there in bringing in family, bringing in friends?
So that's a loaded question, and I'll do my best to answer, and you can jump in whenever you see fit. Part of it for me is richness is not the amount of money we have and how nice of a house we have. It's not just that. I do want that. But it's how many opportunities we create for other people. When I worked at All Deaf, that was one of the things I loved more than anything is like, there's so many talented people who were not getting a shot by regular Hollywood. By being in All Deaf, we were able to give a lot of talented people their first break, their reel, whatever. So I wanted our company to be a place that marginalized people can win. With family, it's very similar to managing teams. Like I managed teams in previous jobs, and so did Melissa. The same way we work with my brother, who's my manager, is not the same way we work with Greg, who's my brother-in-law, but he has a different job. There's different ways to motivate people, to bring them in line. There's, you push and pull. You don't do that with two employees the same in any job. So with family, there's a little more give and take, right? There's a little more you ain't finna just fire your family like that. But also, you also know that this is a real job. So there might be a situation where we have to say, we can't do this anymore because it's not working, right? So Melissa gave me a really good edict. She said, don't ever hire somebody that you're not willing to fire, so, and that's a tough thing. Like at the end of the day, this is a business. I used to say this at All Deaf all the time. This is a business, not the Boys and Girls Club. Like you are at work. It is a very fun job. We can do very cool things, but it is a business. And if it doesn't make money, we all are going to go home and work regular jobs, which ended up happening anyway. Mm-hmm. So there's that. And I feel like, in this business, specifically Hollywood, a lot of your business and your success is your relationships. So the friends that you looked out for back in the day might end up being a person who looks out for you now, like Yvonne Orji from Insecure. She was somebody I looked out for in All Deaf 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. She has completely surpassed me, so now one day she might look out for me and, it's kind of a pay it forward type of thing. So I feel like for us, it was, important to give other people opportunities, but not at the expense of our business to where we're like, everybody eats, but not us. We can't build any wealth. We can't pass nothing along to our children but we definitely do take a pay cut to make sure somebody else, like, Melissa's sister's husband, our brother-in-law, he works for us. He doesn't have to work a regular job, right? He edits and produces for us, and it allows him the freedom to make money in other ways, and maybe he'll be able to flip a house and help them in another way. And also his wife works for Netflix. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, and then in other ways, changing it now, my brother is my manager, but he's also really good at it. Like, he really is a good manager. Like, I'm not really good at negotiating because I'm so creative. I'm like, oh, I just want to get paid to do this. I'll do it. And he was like, yeah, but you're not going to do it for free. And you're not going to do it for below what other people of your platform size are getting paid. So that means you're going to have to turn down some stuff because people are going to respect you. You know what I'm saying? And, it's about getting the right people on the bus, the wrong people off, and the right people in the right seats. And that's the part that we are balancing.
Corporate life.
I know.
That's
I got
good.
it.
That was some good stuff right there.
What you got to say about that, Melissa?
The only thing I would add is that the work to hire in anybody is to hire the right people in the beginning.
Yeah.
That's the real work, is making sure that you are just not so excited to get the help, or you're actually, what it is you are so desperate to get the help that you hire any and everybody, and then they get into position and you realize they're the wrong person. And now you're in this weirdness of like, you're not really what I want it to be, and now I don't know how to let you go, but like, low-key, I need to let you go because you're creating more work for me because you're doing it wrong. And we went through, to be honest, through that, and I've struggled since with making sure that you hire people that are as passionate and care about your brand as much as you do. You can't just hire any and everybody to fill a role if they're not passionate about your brand. We've had plenty of people that come in and they want to work with Kev. Well, Kev's bus is full, so it's like, well, maybe you can work with Melissa. And I've literally had to stop Kevin a few times, and I think now he's gotten it, where I'm like, if they come and say that they want to work for you and you don't have a position and now you're just going to pass them on to me, I don't want that person. I don't want a leftover person. Even if they have the same skill set, if they're not excited about the Love Hour brand, if they're not excited about the MrsKevonStage brand, why would I want them on my team?
Yeah.
And so you have to do that work in the beginning. And so if that means right now I'm a lone ranger and I'm kind of trying to figure it out and do it on my own, that's what I will do until I'm able to hire and find the right person. So that's like my only piece of advice, is ensuring that you do the work up front. Even that means you got to, prolong it by yourself for a little while longer. It'll be less stress on you than hiring the wrong person. Think they're going to relieve some stress and some work from you, and they actually end up creating more work for you. And now you're also stressed. Child, ain't nobody got the time.
And also, like Josh, who was our first hire, I was able to see him. He's over here. I was able to see him work. He was an intern at All Def, and I was able to see him be good at so many things. So, like, just this year, we went from shooting on this camera at first to Zoom, to Josh, how do we up our production quality with Zoom, and sending him a link of a company or a podcast that does it well, and him be like, okay, this is how we'll do that. And now to be like, okay, Josh, now that we have Angel and we need a social distance, how do we make this show look better? And he's like, oh, this Sling Studio thing, it's a way we can do this with iPhones. And you know what I'm saying? Look, so in the way I always have a way to figure it out, so does he. Because, you know what I'm saying? Like, he always be like, okay, Kev, here's how we'll make this work. And hiring people that can push back against you. Because I am a person who has very strong feelings, and Melissa will be like, no, this is wrong. And then Josh will be like, I was wanting to say something too, but now also this is no. And that also, and then also giving those people a place where they can push back and you can listen to them, as opposed to like plowing over their feelings and then having to double back and be like, oh, you guys actually were right about this. You know what I'm saying? So that probably is one of the hardest things about working with your family, because it's easier when you have no relationship with people, because like, okay, you're good, and also now you're fired, right? You know what I'm saying? It's a lot harder when you're close to these people, because you expect more from them, and you have to make sure they can get it.
So it wasn't just what I took away was, it wasn't just that these were family members or previous associates. These were people that you saw could add value. Despite your relationship with them, you saw that they could add value. You wouldn't have to pull them along. They would be able to help push the brand forward.
Absolutely.
And they loved it.
Bad hires, but I think he's got the right folks now.
Got the right folks now. I love it. Somebody said, Joshy Gones. Awesome.
Josh is here.
Yes, I love it. They said y'all teaching. This is great. Well, I'm sure everybody that's watching and listening, they know who you guys are. But for those that maybe don't know who you are, let them know where they can find you on the web.
All 23 of your podcasts and television series and YouTube channels. Let us know where they all are. We want to listen to them all.
Go ahead, baby.
I am at MrsKevonStage on all platforms across the board. And you can listen, of course, to the Love Hour podcast where we talk about life, love, the pursuit of happiness, and everything in between. And that's it.
I'm KevonStage everywhere. KevonStage Studios and KevonStage on YouTube. KevonStage is short form content. KevonStage Studios is long form content, and the podcast. I have Dear Kev on Fridays. Here's the Thing on Wednesdays. All type of stuff. Those are the only things that come out weekly on the same time. And I'm on TikTok too, where I do things to annoy my children.